Good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, depending where you are. If we haven't met before, my name's John. I spend most of my time helping people to build and launch email marketing first businesses using Kit. In these sessions, I tend to cover off one main feature and then answer any questions that you may have. So if you've got any questions, feel free just to drop them into the comments. They should appear on my screen, and I can answer you as best I can. So in this session, I'm going to talk about visual automations. So if you're familiar with Kit, you probably know what they are. If you're not familiar with Kit, they are probably, I would say they're probably the most powerful, most flexible of automation that Kit offers on the platform. So where you'll find these are in the top menu up here under Automate. There are a number of different options. The one at the top left here, Visual Automations, is the one that I'm going to focus on today. I'll mention briefly what the other ones are, just in case you're interested. The Rules is more of a, if this thing happens, then do that thing, like a trigger that happens in the background. RSS feeds are something that's been around for quite a long time actually. It stands for Really Simple Syndication. It allows you to basically pull data from a source, whether that's a blog feed or whatever, pull that data into Kit and then email your list using either that data or a digest of that data. The apps is quite self-explanatory, it's just the App Store, and then Kit MCP is a relatively new introduction. It allows you to connect your AI agents effectively to Kit. But today, like I say, I'm going to focus on visual automation. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on New Automation. And the first thing you'll see in here is a whole raft of templates that are being generated by the Kit team already. They do a number of different things. They vary in complexity from very, very simple to relatively complex. And if you find something in there that's useful for you, it can be a good shortcut to generate the automation in your Kit account. So the way these things work, if you look at the two buttons here, preview allows you to see what that looks like. So if I click on that, you can see what's included inside the automation. That one's relatively trivial. It's got a form, a tag, and then an email sequence. But if you click use this template, what it essentially does is it takes a copy of that template and puts it into your Kit account. So you can change whatever you want when you copy it into your account, because you're not affecting anyone else. Some people I speak to, they get a bit concerned. I don't want to edit it and all that kind of stuff. It's not, you're not going to change anything for anyone else. It's only inside your account. I'm going to start on the empty one just so that it makes sense from the ground up what's actually happening inside an automation. So essentially what you're doing within a visual automation is you're instructing Kit on certain things to do, or attributes to assign to a subscriber, or emails to send to them, etc. There's a number of different things you can do in there. But it all starts with a trigger point, an entry point, or a trigger for that automation to kick off. If I click on Browse Templates, it just takes us back to that screen I just showed you with all the templates on it. I'm going to click on Start Building. When this pops up, by default you'll see these top four options. It says there, choose an entry for your automation. So it's going to be one of these top four. This one down the bottom is actually a Calendly integration that I've installed on this demo Kit account, and that's why it's showing up there. But if you don't see Calendly, it's because you don't have it installed on your Kit account. I'll just briefly show you where that resides. Under Apps, if I scroll down, you can see in this Calendly one here, you can see I've got a green tick, meaning it's installed on my account. If that had not been installed, then I wouldn't be seeing that down there. So just so you don't get confused if you go and create your automation. The one thing I will say, and this is not to do with Kit, this is just general practice It's something that works for me, I have done for many years, and it might help you as well. So when you're building out an automation, it helps if you can design it before you start building it inside Kit, I find anyway, especially if it's got a level of complexity to it. Okay, so what I mean by that is, if you can map out in your head what it is you want to happen for your subscribers, and either scribble it down on a bit of paper. I usually do it on a whiteboard in my office here, but if I'm not at my desk or I'm not in my office, I tend to use just a digital whiteboard or a sketch pad, and the one I use is this one here. It doesn't really matter which one you use, to be honest, but it just happens to be Excalibur that is the one that I use. But essentially what I do is I'll start to map out what's going to happen and what I want Kit to do based on what happens. So if someone signs up to my form, I want them to have a tag added to their profile inside Kit. So I'll add a tag saying, let's imagine it was a guide they were downloading. I would say add the tag downloaded guide. I would give it a name that means something. Downloaded the Getting Started with Kit guide, for example. And then I'll say I want to wait for a day. I might not. I'm just giving you options here about what you might want to do. And then I'll say I want to drip feed that 6 email sequence out to them, because I know that that's going to help support them during the phase of getting started with Kit, let's say. And then I might space those 6 emails out and send them out over, I don't know, maybe 10 days, 12 days, something like that. So that as and when they are getting started with the thing that I'm trying to help them with, they're also receiving emails into their inbox that supports the guide that they've already downloaded. And then I'll think to myself, well, after it serves all those emails to them, I then want to ask a question of Kit to say, did they buy my course? Because inside that email sequence, I might have, let's say, a soft reference or a soft sales offer at the bottom of an email saying, by the way, did you know that I also have a course that if you want to go into much more detail, if you want to take this further, it's here, it's available, click here to buy it. So it's not necessarily a sales sequence, it's just a reference to something that I happen to offer. So then I say to Kit, well, did they buy my course or did they not? And then I can decide based on the yes or no answer what I want to do after that. So if the answer is yes, they bought my course, then I'll end the automation. If the answer is no, then I can then choose to send them another sequence that maybe gives a bit more context, a bit more information around what they're doing, and that might increase my chances of them buying my course based on that. This is purely fictitious, this one. I just put this together before this session here just to show you the process that I use to map out the automation, so that when it comes to building inside Kit, it's a very simple case of transposing what I've already sketched out here and putting it into Kit. I also tend to write up notes like in these text, the red text here, essentially are things that I need, reminding myself that I need to do. So I need to create the form for that one, I need to create the tag for that one, I need to create the email sequence, and there's the emails that are going to be in it, email sequence for that one, etc. So it gives me a good checklist, a good starting point, and a good frame of reference when I am actually building the automation inside Kit of what I need to do. Okay, so that's the way I do it. If you find it useful, great. If not, then that's fine too. The first thing I do with automations is I always name them up here. So let's say this is freebie and it is getting started with Kit as an example. And then I'll say, I'll tell Kit that the trigger for this is going to be when they subscribe to a particular form. This is a demo account. I'm just going to pick the first form that's there. I don't think I've got getting started one in here. Oh, there we go. Getting started with ConvertKit. Okay. As an example. So I'll add that as the trigger point. So if they join that form, then that'll trigger the automation. They'll come in, and I'll then do the next thing. So if I go back to my thing I've mapped out, so I've got the form in there, and then I'm going to say I'm going to add a tag. So now at this point I'll say, okay, I'm going to add a tag. Say what tag you're going to add. I'm going to say downloaded starter guide and add that as an action. So you can see how I'm just sort of mirroring what I've already sketched out and into the automation inside Kit. The next thing I might say wait for 1 day, because I want to give them time to, you know, digest the guide that they downloaded. So I'm going to put in a delay there. It says for number of days, and I'm going to say for 1 day. Add the action. So you get the gist. And then the next thing after that is I'm going to drip feed this email sequence to them. So go back into Kit and say click the little plus button. By the way, the thing I should have said at the start of this was visual automations work from the top down. So when someone joins the automation, they work their way downwards until they come out the bottom of the automation. Okay, and these little plus buttons are what allow you to add the next logical step or part of the automation as you're building it. If you see a plus to the right up here, that's because you could have multiple entry points. So if for example, if I said if they joined via that form or joined via that form, I know that doesn't make sense in this case, but if it did, then you can see there's now essentially two ways in which people can enter this automation, either via that form or via that form. And you can extend that to be other things other than a form. So it could be that they purchase one of your products. So if I do that, I could say if they purchased, I don't know if I've got any in here. Let's see that one. So if they purchased a consultation call, for example, via the Kit platform, then that also could be added as a potential trigger point for entering the automation. Horizontally, you you max out at 5, so you can have up to 5 entry points. If you need more than 5, there is a way to do it, but it's not using. You need to use something else, which I'll cover in a different session. So anyway, that's the way the flow of the automation works. So we've now waited for 1 day, and now we're going to send the email sequence. So I'm going to click on the plus button and click email sequence. And again, I don't know what's in this demo account, but let's say it is how to get started with Kit. Okay, add that one. And now that's the email sequence that I'm referencing in here. Oops. And this one saying, you know, drip feed the emails out to them. So the subscribers will stay inside that email sequence for as long as you have it scheduled. So if you've got it scheduled to be delivered, to deliver 6 emails over 10 days, then that's how long they'll stay in there. Obviously that can be whatever duration you want it to be based on your needs. When they finish that when they finish that sequence, they'll exit, and then I'm going to put in the next step, which going back to here, you can see it's this. I put in a conditional question to say, did they buy my course? Because remember, I may have made a reference to something that I'm offering inside the course. So now I'm going to, you can see up here there's 3 main tabs at the top. You've got event, action, and condition. The only one we've used for so far at the moment is action. I'm going to explain to you what condition, how that works. So I'm going to add a condition in, and it's saying that you've got four things to check here: tags, custom fields, advanced filters, or email opens. I'm going to say tags, and I'm going to say, do they have the tag purchased my course, and add the condition. So now when I scroll down, you can see here it's now asking the question. I'm basically saying, have they purchased the course that I made reference to in my email sequence? When I created that email, if they had purchased it, I would have assigned that tag to the subscriber's profile, so I would know that they now have that. Then, depending on what the answer is, either yes or no, then I can apply the next step. So going back to the sketch that I did here. So this is the question: did they buy my course? If the answer is yes, I do nothing. If the answer is no, then I'll send them a different sequence. So the answer, I've got this the other way around from the sketch, but it doesn't matter. Yes and no's switch around. Yes is on this side, no's on that side this time. So no, if they didn't, then what I could choose to do is send them another email sequence. And again, I'm just going to pick one at random up here. It's irrelevant for the purpose of what I'm demonstrating here. It's irrelevant about what the actual sequence has got in it. What I'm trying to do is show you what's possible inside an automation. So if they've not purchased that course, then they come down here and they then get drip fed this email sequence. When they finish there, they'll end the automation just as the people who have already purchased it, they'll have ended the automation too. So that's kind of the way visual automations work. You can start to plug in as many elements into this as you want. You can make it as complex or as simple as it needs to be, and you're only limited by your imagination. So if you've got something, like I say, my recommendation is always to map it out like this, especially, like I say, if it's got complexity to it. I mean, this is actually quite a simplistic one. This one there's not much to it, but you eventually, when you start getting familiar with visual automations and you start to think about how your subscribers are engaging with you, new ideas will pop into your head, and you'll think, what would be good would be if I could, and then you'll start to think of the thing, and invariably that means that you're going to start thinking about how can I automate that inside Kit, how can I make that happen automatically without me having to do anything, and that's when you would start mapping out what it is you want to happen, and then, like I say, translate that across into the Kit automation, so that it happens automatically no matter what you're doing. So I won't add any more complexity to this automation. Hopefully that gives you an understanding of how they work and what they can possibly do for you and your business. The other thing I will say is that it's probably quite obvious, but at the top there's an active button slider switch here. When you've created your automation, you need to make sure you switch that on. Excuse me. You need to make sure that's active, because if it's not active and someone signs up to your form, let me just get rid of these so I don't confuse you. If you make this active, if you don't make this active and someone signs up to your form, the automation will not be triggered. And I see some people, sometimes what will happen is they'll share the link to their landing page or their opt-in form, saying please sign up here, here's my thing, and they'll get excited about it, and then they'll realise that nobody is arriving in their email list, and it's because not that they're not arriving in their email box, that's not true, but they're not receiving the emails that they should be receiving as a result of having subscribed to that particular form. So in other words, down here, when they start getting the supporting emails, they wonder why they're not getting the emails. It's because they hadn't activated the automation. Now, the one thing I will say about automations is that they don't work retroactively. And what I mean by that is, if let's say I did forget to add people, let's say I did forget to switch it on before people started subscribing, if I then go back and put the slider switch to active, it will not then put the people into the automation who have already subscribed via that form, because it doesn't work that way. Once you make this active, only from that point onwards will people join via the available entry points. Okay, so some people get a little bit confused about that. Whether it's a form or a tag, the same applies. If it's not active at the point of when the subscriber does the thing, they won't be in the automation. There are ways to manually add people into automations. Again, I won't get into that in this session because I don't want to confuse you. But if that does happen when you're doing an automation, just know that there is a way to manually add them in, and everything will happen automatically after that. So just remember to activate it. These three little dots up here, if you click on that, you can also share the automation. duplicate the automation, or if you want to delete the automation. The share button essentially means that, and this is what I do for a lot of my customers, they'll ask me to build out an automation for their business. And if I build out an automation, which can be quite complex at times, I'll build it out in my account, or in one of my Kit accounts that I use for building customer systems. And if I then share that with them, they can then take that and put it into their Kit account. So when I click on share, you'll see here it creates this unique URL here, and if I copy that and put it into a browser window, you'll see what it looks like. So that, imagine me being my customer now. I've just been given this link. I click it, and then what happens is it pops up and says, "This is what you're just about to copy into your Kit account. Are you happy with this?" And it says there, this automation includes one form, 2 tags, and 2 sequences, which will all be copied into your account, and it's been shared by, and it tells who's sharing. In this case, it's me with a demo account. And if I click use this automation as the customer, it would take everything that I've created and put it into their Kit account. Now, I'll caveat that momentarily, because there are certain elements of Kit's platform that do not get copied over in an automation. And again, I don't want to confuse you on this session, but things like if I create a product for Kit Commerce, or if I create a snippet inside an email, and if you don't know what any of these things mean, don't worry about it. I'm going to cover these. But just know that when you share it via this method, some elements may not be shared with your customer. In this simple case that I've just went through, everything will be shared, right? So there's nothing unusual or exceptional about this automation. Everything would be just shared with whoever uses the link. And then you can see up here that's sort of grayed out at the moment. You can see how many subscribers have gone through this automation. Obviously none at the moment, because I've just created that. You do have the ability to pause the automation if you want. Now, you can see here 0 subscribers be paused, and it says from progressing to future steps, new subscribers will still enter but pause before continuing past entry points. So when you press the pause button, it's almost like stopping people from progressing sort of from top to bottom through the automation, but they still exist inside there. So if there's something you want to change momentarily, you could use it for that purpose. But just be aware, if you do that, that inside, if someone's inside an email sequence, for example, that email sequence will still send out the emails, even though the overall automation has been paused. So that's it for automations. If you've got any questions, comments, ideas, stick them in the comments field below, and I'll respond as best I can. Alright, so I'll leave it there for now, and I'll hopefully see you on the next one. Cheers.